Hey, so good morning. So I want to talk a little bit about the carbon fiber rotors that were on the car. Um, okay. I've had a lot of different setups over the years. A few months ago, I went to the ZR1 carbon fiber rotor conversion, the CCM conversion. Up until that point, I also did the 15-inch rear small brake kit. I do not have a chute on the car. And the car makes, as it sits, around 1,500 horsepower. Um, I have been asked how the braking performance was with the 15-inch rears. Did I feel like I needed to shoot? What's the braking like, up top from a high mile per hour if you needed to slam on the brakes? And obviously, Texas 2K was a great place during the roll race to experience that. The car trapped there in about 1,500 feet, I think it was, around 195, 196 mile an hour on its best passes. So we were doing close to 200 mile an hour. So it was a good simulation of the street for those of us that are out there doing some friendly highway testing on Friday and Saturday nights. What I would say is this: uh, I found the carbon front rotor to be incredibly effective. I never felt brake fade. I can't say I've had that same experience on iron. On iron, at this power level, slamming on the brakes, it's common to get a little bit of brake fade. And I find that my stopping distance was definitely longer. Many times, even at the drag strip here, I'm literally having to slam on my brakes. And multiple times, I've actually been into the one time, I've actually gone to the sand trap here locally. And I had been planning, a matter of fact, I bought a parachute. I just hadn't installed it for this event. And the reason I hadn't installed it was because in testing on the street here with the carbons, it stops effortlessly. It's significantly better at this horsepower level. Now, I'm not saying that your full bolt-on GTR needs to have, carbon rotors on it. I think if you can afford it, it's a no-brainer option. They're going to last significantly longer, and they don't experience that brake fade. You can make literally highway pull after highway pull after highway pull, and the rotors are nice and cool. Um, Whereas iron, if you do back pulls, you might even see some scorching on the rotor itself. So I found that to be really impressive to me from a safety standpoint. But I would definitely say if you're pushing 1,000 horsepower plus, I mean, if you're in that range, I after experiencing both now and being able to see the difference in the feel and how the car brakes, I think the carbon, at least in the front, is, I would almost say, mandatory. And I think that's why you see so many now big power cars. I think pretty much every big power car. It's not just for weight savings; it's also for braking performance on the drag strip. Like I said previously, I was really having to lock them up. I mean, as soon as I would go through the quarter mile mark, I was literally having to pretty much just slam on the brake. You need to feel the whole rear end, come up, and there was some uneasiness, especially on slicks. And now with the carbon, rotor, man, it was not, I mean, even going an extra, 180 feet, something like that at this event, there was never a time when I felt the car felt unstable. I never felt like I had to like completely slam on the brakes like I did with the iron. It just was a much safer experience. And that's having the 15-inch brakes in the rear because these cars are extremely forward biased in their braking. Um, I have, I've had a lot of people ask me, well, when you put the 15-inch conversion on it, do you feel like braking performance has diminished? And I would say no, because I think this car, literally, I think the front brakes do the overwhelming majority of the braking. And I think that if you can afford it, your payback period, you go through, you're probably going to get, they say, the industry, the rule of thumb is you can get 3 to 4 sets of iron rotors in the time that you wear out one single set of carbon. So if you can afford to do it now, I think for the weight savings and for the braking performance alone, from a safety standpoint, it is a no-brainer. I don't have any concerns on the 15-inch rear. I don't feel like that's been a detriment. I've had some people tell me that on the iron, when they had the iron in the front, and then they did the 15-inch conversion in the rear. They felt like the braking performance was diminished, and a lot of them went to the chute to slow them down. I feel like, I hate to use the word not needed because people are going to crucify me for that from a safety standpoint, but I'm just telling you, my experience has been they stop very, very, very well. And no, I have not felt like I couldn't slow down. Matter of fact, this past weekend at Texas 2K, there were people that were blowing past me in the shutdown area of the track, and I was just coasting to the end of the track. So I'm a big believer now that I've had a chance to really spend some time with it at a high mile per hour. Like I said, the weight reduction, fantastic. I mean, you're significantly cutting rolling mass off the car. So from a performance standpoint, it's a no-brainer. But I think now it's also more of a safety situation for me at the power level the car is currently at, where, man, just the braking distance is significantly diminished. And from that standpoint alone, especially for those of you guys that are doing, roll races on the street and things like that, it might be a really good item to budget for, if you can afford it. So that is my feedback. I try to be as transparent as I can be with my experience with the car. Lord knows I've tried a million different setups over the years, a lot of different rotors, a lot of different pads. Like I said, I think if the car is full bolt-on, or even probably sub 1,000 horsepower, from a cost standpoint, I can understand keeping the iron. But I think if you've got a really, really fast car, you're north of 1,000 horsepower. I think from a safety standpoint alone, slowing down the car, not getting that brake fade, reducing your distance to stop, I think that the carbon fiber rotor makes a lot of sense. And I would definitely advise it going forward.